I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Stokes County Board of County Commissioners for Monday, April 10th, 2023 at 6 p.m. And we will start with the invocation. I would ask Commissioner Mendenhall if he would do the invocation.
Stand, if you please. Almighty, gracious Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for this day. What a beautiful day it is. And Lord, we thank you for the wonderful Easter weekend, starting with the Good Friday, going through this Monday. We can't thank you enough for sending your Son down to this earth to give his life for our sins. And Lord, we know that without that, eternity would not be possible. So Father, I want to thank you for allowing each person that's here tonight to come out. Everybody that's watching us on YouTube also would like to thank you for them. We ask that you give everyone here tonight a safe trip back home and just be with us, give us guidance and wisdom from you. For all things we ask it in thy precious name. Amen.
Amen. Next item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion for approval of the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved as advertised. The next item on our agenda are public comments. We have 8 folks signed up to speak tonight. Each person has 4 minutes. Once the timer goes off, if you would, complete your thought or complete the next couple sentences so the next speaker can come up. The first person on the list tonight is Cindy Tilley.
Good evening, everybody. Hope you had a nice Easter.
We did.
Thank you for this time. My name is Cindy Tilley. I am a board member of the Animal Advisory Board. Our chairperson, Candace Loy, she couldn't be here this evening, but she's prepared a statement that she wanted me to read for her. And I would like to begin by informing the board and the citizens of Stokes County of the duties of the Animal Control Advisory Board as stated in our bylaws. The Advisory Council shall assist the Stokes County Chief Animal Control Officer in the development of a strategic plan for the Stokes County Animal Control Department and provide proposed policy recommendations related to the plan for submission to the Stokes County Board of Commissioners. The Advisory Council shall monitor trends involving changes in animal populations, programs, demand for service, licensing activities and fees related to animals, and report their findings to the Stokes County Board of County Commissioners as appropriate. This is what the Advisory Board has done with these proposed ordinances. They have been revised in order to address the increases in the pet overpopulation and revise licensing and fees. At the last board meeting, when these ordinances were last discussed, there were some accusations by some of the citizens that these ordinances were solely written by our Stokes County Animal Control Director, Ms. Lori Shore Smith, and this is far from the truth and would not abide by our council's bylaws. As director, she was an integral part of the recent revisions, but the majority of the current ordinances have been in place since 2016. Our hopes are to move to a more compassionate and humane county in the care for our animals. I would like to briefly address some changes made to the ordinance prior to 2016. The Animal Control Advisory Board had put penalties into place for ordinance violations. Since that time, information came to us from the shelter that these citations were not being paid. After much consultation, the Animal Control Advisory Board arranged to have citations collected through debt set off. In addition, the number of times an officer would need to go to a residence on a complaint has been reduced from 6 times to 3 times in order to reduce the repetitive trips to the same residence. Under Section 6, General Duties of Keepers of Animals, it shall be unlawful for any owner to permit a female animal to run at large during her estrus cycle or to be kept where a male animal can breed her. This includes animals that are tethered. This ordinance has been included to start making some headway to curbing the pet overpopulation in Stokes County. This county is overrun by unwanted puppies and kittens. This will not solve the pet overpopulation, but it will be a good start to making owners understand that they must be a part of the solution. Animal control simply cannot solve all of the animal problems in this county. In 2021, the Running at Large ordinance was passed to help cut down on the strays entering the shelter, as well as being on other people's property and creating issues. Unfortunately, the ordinance was not being enforced under the previous shelter's administration. Also in 2021, kennel permit fees were added and were not increased in this revised ordinance. Over the last 5 years, the doghouse ordinance has been revised to include 4 walls, a roof, a raised elevated, oh my time's up. This goes over what we have for proper housing. The proposed attending tethering ordinance is to move this county toward a more humane way of caring for animals and to help reduce the number of cruelty cases. These cases are time consuming for the shelter staff and take away many hours from the regular duties. The majority of cruelty cases are from tethered animals. This proposed ordinance is not just about tethering. A failure to pass the proposed ordinance means our animals would continue to roam and run freely, continuing to overpopulate, and tethered animals will continue to suffer living on chains. Cruelty cases will continue to rise and increase the workload on an already overburdened shelter staff. The Animal Control Advisory Board recommends
You're getting close
that
to
our
finishing.
commissioners, if you would, this is the last thing, if you
Okay.
could tonight, please try to vote tonight and not delay the vote. And we do appreciate your time and your efforts.
Thank you, Cindy. Our next speaker is Sandra Robinson, I think. Is that right?
That's why I typed my notes because yeah, right. Most legible. My husband would like to cede his time to me if that's okay. He said he didn't want to speak.
Yeah, we do that right there. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I would like to begin by thanking the Stokes County Board of Commissioners.
Wait, just stop just a minute. Who's giving you their time?
My husband.
And he signed up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I would like to begin by thanking the Stokes County Board of Commissioners. It is my understanding that you all have approved funds for a new animal shelter for our county. I applaud this decision and know that every Stokes County animal lover owes you a thank you. So thank you. Over a decade ago, my husband and I began volunteering at county animal shelters, walking dogs, cleaning, day fostering, and helping on holidays. Then we began fostering medical needs, sick or injured puppies. The puppies healed and were adopted to a better life. In addition to fostering over 75 puppies, we've had 2 to 3 dogs of our own at any given time. We've picked up and transported dogs from shelters across North Carolina to rescues where they heal and learn to trust again. I have completed home checks, evaluated dogs, and interviewed doctors. For over a decade, I've pretty much done every job in a rescue except having my own rescue. In doing all this, I can honestly say that the Stokes County Animal Shelter facility is one of the most outdated I have seen. So again, I'm very grateful to the Board of Commissioners for seeing this need and for approving the funds to build a new shelter for our community. Not only will the animals in Stokes County benefit, but our residents will as well. I'm here tonight to ask you to adopt the revised ordinances so thoughtfully put together by the Stokes Animal Control Advisory Board, a board whose members are all appointed by the Board of Commissioners. The care of the animals in Dogs and cats and other pets depend on us to take care of them. From this point, I'm going to just talk about dogs because that is where my experience is. Dogs depend on us for food, shelter, and protection. A comfortable, flat, dry place to rest their head at the end of a long day of working, hunting, or playing, whatever the case may be. A full belly so they have the energy to go out and do it again the next day. A knowledge that we have their backs and will keep them protected with a barrier so they do not have to sleep with one eye open to be ready at a moment's notice to fend off a wild animal, a vicious member of their own species, or in the case of a female in heat, a male interested only in creating puppies. With over 10 years in rescue, I can tell you we cannot adopt our way out of the current overpopulation problem. North Carolina is third in the nation for euthanasia. A vigorous spay and neuter program will help us no longer be at the top of that undesirable list. The ordinance changes I'm asking you to adopt could mandate spay and neuter with strict fines and jail time for repeat offenders who do not spay and neuter. They could write into law that all dogs must be kept inside a structure that has a complete HVAC system. They could say that all dogs in Stokes County must be kept in a lot no smaller than an acre, surrounded by a 6-foot chain link fence. They could even go as far as fining owners if their dogs were overweight. Are any of these things written into the ordinance changes? No. They are common sense ordinances to protect the dogs and people of Stokes County. Most of the ordinances are already in place, having been passed by earlier boards and commissioners. These changes only help make the ordinances clearer and more enforceable, a necessary change for the well-being of animals and people in this county. Currently, existing ordinances like rabies vaccination and the running at large ordinance are being enforced. What does that mean? It means the Animal Control Department and its officers are doing their jobs, the jobs they were hired and charged to do. These ordinance changes create clarity. Clarity helps create boundaries. Boundaries create a better life for the animals and people in Stokes County. One of my jobs as a foster mom is to look over applications for potential owners of puppies that we are fostering and then interview the potential candidates. I can honestly say if the potential owner was planning to not spay or neuter the dog or tether the dog unattended and without adequate shelter, no rescue would approve that application, even for a hound. I say that because we have a treeing walker blue tick coonhound named Earl. My first memory of a dog is a beagle because my dad hunted rabbits. We lost our Gascon blue tick a few years ago to cancer, and it took us 2 years to find Earl. Why? A lot of hounds at shelters just want to hunt. That is what they were bred to do. They're not like Labradors who wait for you to kill something and then they go retrieve it. No, hounds go track it down on their own and then they yell at you to come and get it. So they're used to being very independent. We drove all over North Carolina and Virginia looking at hounds at shelters, and many times they would rush right by us, noses in the air looking for the scent. We knew those were not the hounds for us. Although all the hounds we looked at either were not shipped or were left behind because they were not good hunters, they were all looking for homes. Earl doesn't like to get his feet wet, and he shivers if the temperature is less than 45 degrees. Not all hounds like to hunt. Not all hounds like to be house dogs. But all hounds like to feel safe and protected. Warm when it's cold, dry when there is wet weather, and a cool, nice, shady spot when the sun is beating down. They like to know that if they are unprotected or tethered, their human is with them. Otherwise, they're inside a fence and safe from other dogs or predators. They are not asking for much, and neither are we. And I would like to take a minute, I know that several of y'all are dog owners and dog lovers, to ask if we can have everybody in the room who loves dogs to stand, including the board, if you love dogs.
Brad, set that down. We need to set that down.
And I will take scrutiny the laws, the ordinances, if you wish. Continue to stand up, it's go too long for that, but thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Okay, Jack is your husband, right? So he conceded his time to you, okay. Okay. The next person we have to speak is Susan Snyder.
Hi,
Hey, how you doing?
I'm a King resident and a retired teacher from Stokes County. I started working on a petition to restrict the act of tethering back in 2018. This began after I went to one of our Stokes County veterinarians asking what I could personally do to help dogs chained 24/7 in our county. She told me to gather 500 signatures of support to present. Thus began a petition which was strongly supported by over 25 King and Woman Code business owners who placed the petitions at their establishments and gathered signatures until COVID hit in 2020. We gathered 500 signatures and then doubled that before COVID. And all this leads me to wonder what it is possibly going to take in this county to accomplish what our surrounding North Carolina counties have already put into place. When you have a serious health concern, you go to a specialist, a doctor, to get the best diagnosis to hopefully cure your illness. The specialists on animal welfare in our county are our 3 veterinarians and Lori Shore Smith, our animal control supervisor. They work with our animals day in and day out. What do our animal specialists say on the issue of tethering dogs? David Bowen, Stokes veterinarian with 38 years in our county, states, and I quote, "Stokes County should join several of our surrounding counties in eliminating this harmful and inhumane practice," end quote. And I do have this letter. Adrian Krieger, Stokes veterinarian with over 28 years of practice, goes even further, and I quote, "I humbly beg those in authority in Stokes County to do the right thing for the precious animals God has entrusted in our care and pass an ordinance banning the outdated, inhumane act of animal tethering," end quote. There is that word again, inhumane. Deborah Cowan, our other Stokes vet, is quoted in the Stokes Times, December of 2020, as saying, quote, "It's time we came out of the dark ages," end quote. And yet here we are with another year passing by, even debating what the right thing to do is. The Honorable Commissioners in Forsyth County got this done. The Honorable Commissioners in Surrey County got this done. And the last surrounding county in North Carolina, Rockingham, got this accomplished. I pray Stokes can follow. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Juan Glidewell.
Well, y'all know how I feel about the ordinance, but this advisory board, I got questions about that. How does somebody get put on that? Because I know 2 people that will volunteer for it, and they're on opposite sides of the county.
It's on our agenda for the next item.
Okay.
Is that all you had?
Yeah.
Okay. Sonia, is it Meeberl? Aberly, I'm sorry.
Hi, I don't have anything prepared. I spoke a little bit at the last one. I told you guys I was a delivery person and we see it firsthand. Not as bad as Lori and them may see it, but, and we have another delivery carrier here. But when you go around the county, you do see everything. I lived in another state before that had a mandatory spay-neuter law. So when I got out of the military and come back home, I was in shock. So I've been in rescue for 21 years. I've been with Candace since 2004, and I volunteer at the shelter sometimes. A lot of the dogs that come in, they have wounds. Some of the cats have wounds. None of them are spayed and neutered. I know this isn't about the spay and neuter law, but of course I would like for there to eventually be something with spay neuter. But all of this stuff that's in the ordinances, I don't think they're asking for much. This is not us against the coon hunters. I think that, the part about 0 to 50 dogs, the fee's only $300. 50 dogs in my book would be a puppy mill. And you want to talk about the puppy mill that was busted some years back on Bob May Road, Lucille May stuff that they got charged with was nothing. And I've heard that they're doing the puppy mill again. That's not that far from here. You know, it's in our own backyard, in our own county, with people running puppy mills. And I've also heard that there's a dog fight ring now. I don't know where, you know, I just heard that in Stokes County. I mean, you know, we just need to become more like these other counties around us. If they can do it, I don't see why we can't do it. And I just want to tell you guys, I appreciate y'all for passing the new shelter, hopefully one day being built. I appreciate Foss and all the volunteers. And I just hope you guys can at least pass this through, because like I said, I just don't think they're asking for a whole lot. And, you know, it's common sense, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't have that to give the animals clean water, clean food every day, and, you know, to not have them, like Lori said, the crop circles with the chains and all that stuff. This trolley system will allow the dogs to have more free range, and they don't cost that much. And it's just a more humane way overall. I appreciate y'all's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Kathleen Edwards is next.
Evening. I'm speaking in support of the proposed revisions. A unanimous vote for the proposed ordinance revisions will foster excellence in animal welfare enforcement. If you are going to preach excellence and the pursuit of excellence to our youth, you have to set a good example. The people of Stokes County want to see the practice of tethering dogs ended. The practice of tethering dogs is cruel and causes long-term unjustifiable psychological and physical suffering. The acceptance of cruelty at a leadership level constitutes a corrosive moral wrong. When the department head in your county who deals with the cruelty of tethering on a daily basis comes to you to ask for your help in ending that cruelty, and when the veterinarians practicing medicine in your county are unanimously against tethering, it is incumbent upon you to listen to the experts and to base your decisions on facts. They are asking you for the tools they need to do a more excellent job. I noticed Chairman Morris asked that the position statement of the UKC on tethering be added to the agenda. In making good judgments, one should assign more weight and credence to the position statements of organizations concerned with welfare of dogs than to the position statements of organizations who sell registration papers for profit. Unlike the AKC, the UKC is a for-profit business. Their standards have always been lax. They have no position statement on inbreeding. In fact, you can register an inbred dog with the UKC. They cater to backyard breeders, selling memberships and registration papers to individuals for profit. By contrast, the AKC is older, open only to approved groups, has more rigorous standards, and has always frowned upon the UKC. So, when any individual or group hands you information, Commissioner Morris, information, as opposed to an opinion, you have to consider the source. You have to consider what that group or individual has to gain by persuading you to their way of thinking. Kennel clubs make profits selling registration papers, period. They do not have the best interests of dogs in mind when they defend, accept, or ignore a cruel practice that has been proven repeatedly to harm dogs. To them, puppies mean nothing more than dollar signs. When I brought the board the following facts, no one asked the clerk to add these facts to the agenda. AVMA, in 2003, the American Veterinary Medical Association stated, never tether or chain your dog because this can contribute to aggressive behavior. HSUS, from an ethical point of view, tethering is an unacceptable method of confinement for any animal and has no place in humane tethering. USDA, in 1996, the United States Department of Agriculture said, The continuous confinement of dogs by tether is inhumane. Constant tethering of dogs is not a humane practice, and the Animal Welfare Act, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, prohibited the use of perpetual tethering in 1997. It's now 2023. And I'll conclude quickly. According to the CDC, restrained dogs chained and tethered are 2.8 times more likely to bite than properly socialized dogs. And the World Animal Foundation, I have the citations on this paper which I gave to Amber, says that 25% of dog bite fatalities are caused by chained dogs. 25% of dog bite fatalities. These are not my opinions, these are facts. The board should vote unanimously to pass the ordinance revisions to reflect the prevailing wisdom on this issue and to be in keeping with the values of local veterinarians and the majority of its citizens. A small group of hobbyists should not determine the standards of care for underserved dogs in our county, nor should a small group of hobbyists be allowed a double standard under which their dogs continue to suffer while other dogs are protected. We expect our leaders to demonstrate superior intellect and decision-making skills.
You about finished,
I trust that all
Kathleen?
members of this board will vote on the
Please
side
wrap
of,
it up, okay.
I trust that all members of this board will vote on the side of excellence rather than on the side of mediocrity. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. We have one last speaker, and that's Miss Mike Burnstrand. Burstrand.
Y'all see it here. I have to apologize for last time here. I walked out, but I don't know. But anyway, I don't have no nice, neat sheet of paper. I don't have no stats from here or there and done this or that for 10 years. Just experience. I'm 70 years old. I've been dealing with hunting dogs since I was 10 years old, so that's 60 years. I was born and raised in Indiana, come down here in 73 in the military and liked it down here and stayed. Okay, I am kind of tired of hearing how cruel I am to my animals because I tether them out. I have lots. I have 2 dogs right now. That's all hunting dogs. A squirrel dog and a coon dog. And they are both tethered out right now, not in the lots, because I busted up my knee New Year's Eve squirrel hunting, and I can't get in the woods good right now. And the dogs stay much more active. Now, what they're talking about as far as dogs being tethered and being cruel and stuff, yeah, that happens all the time. But as far as the tethering rule, like I said last time I was here, I don't need the microphone. You know, what's going to happen is you're going to have more dogs loose in the county. I don't know where their stats are or anything, but that's what's going to happen. I'll tell you that. I've seen it. I worked at vending companies in Winston-Salem for years. They have tethering rules. They have leash laws. Anybody ever been to East Winston? There's more dogs over there than there are people running around, and they got the laws in place. It's almost I don't know how it's going to be really enforced without. And as far as a hobbyist, yeah, I'm a hobbyist. I've been a hobbyist all my life. But you can come to my house anytime you want to. And as far as dogs being fat, I got one that eats too damn much. I can't get weight off of him. But as far as being cruel, tethering a dog is not cruel if it's done humanely, as they call it. But humanely, if a dog's on a chain, that's inhumane. That's terrible to that dog. And I don't know if in all my years, like I said, 60 years of fooling with dogs, I've never seen one of my dogs get mean or anything like that. They get mean if you don't feed them, you don't take care of them, stuff like that. And if you want to go after people like that, that's fine. And as far as a lot's not expensive, I've got several big lots, 10 by 10s. Got them broke down in 5 by 10. And I got my on platforms 5 by 10 and on the ground 5 by 10 behind me. But like I said, I got my 2 dogs tethered out right now because you get more exercise. Because in the pen, they just lay there and wait for the food. And you have more interaction with your dog when it's on a chain too, because it comes up and greets you and stuff. And when you're in to go to feed them in a light, all you want to do is get back. Get back so I can feed you. It's not cruel and inhumane putting a dog out on a chain. And people that I know with hunting dogs, they're not cruel to their dogs. Most of them people are taking better care of their dogs than a lot of people take care of their children. I mean, they see vets with them, they go to the doctors all the time and stuff. It's just, I don't know. The whole world's going crazy as far as I'm concerned. And as far as government agencies, the department, this department, that, we all know about the departments of the government, how those things work, except for Stokes, it's a good. But I don't know what else to say really, except, you know, the people that if they get fined or something, you go to their house, say, well, you got to put your dogs in a lot. Those lots, the cheapest lot, you can go out to a Tractor Supply or any lot. Cheapest lot right now is about $300. A lot of people don't have $300 to put in a lot. They just don't. Unless y'all are going to start coming up with some money to help the poor people out here like me that can't afford it. No, but it's, tethering a dog is not a mean and cruel thing to do. You know, as long as they're fed, taken care of and everything, they're happy. They're happier on a chain than they are in a lot. My dogs are. They always have been. But I keep them in lots because it's a lot cleaner. But it's not as muddy for me. I ain't going to take her no more. I ain't going to get 8 or 9 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that concludes our public comments. The next item on our agenda is comments from the manager and commissioners. And I'll start with Commissioner Mendenhall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really don't have any comments at this time. Maybe after we go around the board and I listen to everybody else, I may have something to add to it at that time. So I'm going to pass my time right now to Commissioner Chandler.
Okay, Mr. Chandler.
First of all, thank everybody for coming out. I think that's what government's all about, especially local government. We're the closest to the people, to the residents of the county. So I know that both sides should get the respect and the right to speak what their views are. I know personally, I just want to see the dogs be treated right. We shouldn't have people getting away with abusing dogs. I think as we go further into our discussion phase and as we go through the ordinance and everything, I'm sure that the right decision will be made. The second thing that I would like to talk about doesn't have anything to do with animal abuse, but the month of April, I just want to give a shout out to Department of Social Services when it comes to Child Prevention Month. And I think that we are in very, very dire situation. It's not just in our county, but it's also in other parts of the state and the other states in the United States. So if all of us, and if you'd pass it on to your families and friends, and if you can do anything at all to, whether it be to take a minute to be a mentor, or take a minute to where if you come in contact with somebody, a child that you think is being abused or neglected, instead of maybe, saying it's really none of my concern, none of my business, I think it is our business, and I think that we need to make sure that our children are treated right and have an opportunity to excel here in Stokes County. One of the biggest things that we have, not just in Stokes County, but in the country as a general, is that it's a proven fact that children that are abused or severely neglected, they're very disadvantaged the rest of their life. And a lot of time, the cycle of violence goes on. In other words, it's not broken. So if they're in a family to where there's physical abuse or severe mental abuse, there's a very, very good chance that even when the child becomes an adult, that adult is going to do the same thing to their child or their children. Family is very important. no matter what faith you have, is also important. It goes hand in hand. But in order, and this crosses into a lot of the different things that we have problems here in the county. And the reason I'm talking about our county is because this is where we live. And we need to make sure that we do the right thing. Is that even with the opioid problem that we have, the narcotics, it all runs in the same vein. And, it goes back to, what came first, the chicken or the egg. The one way that we try to get things going right is prevention. Prevention can take shape in many different forms, but no one's perfect. No one family is perfect. So if something does happen, if the prevention failed, then we have to look at treatment. And then hopefully the treatment is successful and the treatment doesn't come back. And that's where the community comes in. So I'm just asking, and you see a lot of things going on in our country right now. And there was, I guess, 2 more shootings today. So I think that if we all kind of, start taking care of our own neighbors and getting to know them and help when you can, or if you can be a mentor to a young child that's coming up that is maybe a wayward past, if you would just take a moment, and that moment may be the one thing that puts that child on the right track. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Chandler. Commissioner Wood.
I'd like to welcome everybody and thank you for coming out. I appreciate everybody's watching on YouTube. I hope y'all had a great Easter like I did. We welcomed 2 great grandsons for the first time for Easter yesterday, and they were spoiled all day long. So I'm going to end that on a happy note.
Commissioner Cox.
Yes, I'd like to thank everybody for being here in person and online. And I started this day out in Indiana at 6:30 this morning so I could get here for this meeting. So if I look tired, I am tired of being in the car and traveling all day. But as Commissioner Chandler mentioned, April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month. And if you've seen the blue pinwheels as you came in the complex here, and I think they're around at some of the schools and some of the libraries and things, that's to remind everybody, that's a symbol of, to remind everybody about the National Child Abuse Prevention Month. And thank our DSS department and our workers over there for their hard work in trying to make a difference in that area. As you know, they're shorthanded on foster families. They're offering trainings for foster families, very shorthanded in that area. Their Guardian Ad Litem program is shorthanded and looking for volunteers. So if any of that appeals to any of you out there, they could use the help, I'm sure, but that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Amber, if you got any comments? Questions?
Welcome everybody here. Thank you for being here and attending our meeting, and thank you for watching live stream. I hope everybody had a great Easter and a great Easter Monday, even though we're here. But thank y'all for being here.
Okay, I'll wrap up. First of all, I wanted to welcome everybody and we appreciate your participation in our local government. That's really the only way it can work, is with participation from our constituents. I wanted to update you on River Street. Some of you might have remembered that we were planning on having River Street here at this meeting to give their update on the contract we have with them. A couple things happened that we've delayed that for 1 month. The first thing is that in examining the general statutes, we determined, along with North Carolina Technology Office, that our match that we had provided was too much, and it was in violation of the general statute. So we've got to revise the contract to reduce that match amount another $500,000 and bring that money back to the county for other broadband priorities. So we got to revise that contract and make some program adjustments, which they will explain whenever they come next month. The other thing is our guy that heads up our broadband committee now, Glenn Knox, who we recently put on contract here, had some medical issues, and we hope to have him back in time to have a broadband committee meeting and get their recommendations prior to River Street coming back and updating the board at the next regular commissioner meeting, or not regular, but the next one night meeting we have at the beginning of month of May. So they'll be back. Their program's going good. They're putting fiber down, and I think they have a lot of good information to provide to us whenever they come next month. I'd asked Lisa about the audit. Basically, our auditors are overwhelmed by all kinds of changes in the accounting systems and customers, the numerous customers they have with fewer audit firms, but they're working diligently to get ours done with a goal before the next audit cycle starts, right?
Yes.
so that's a goal we'd really like to meet if we can. And they plan to do that, right, Lisa?
Yes.
Okay. And then just for clarification on a comment Kathleen made a while ago, I don't censor any information that goes into the agenda from any viewpoint, nor do any of the commissioners. If we have an issue and the public would like information that's reasonable to put in the agenda, then we put all information in the agenda. And our constituents are smart enough to read it and figure out whether they agree with it or disagree with it. So I just want to clarify that to make sure everybody was clear on that. The next item on our agenda is conflicts of interest statement. I'll read that. Before moving further, does any board member have a conflict of interest with any of the items on the agenda for tonight, or one that could be perceived as a conflict of interest? Oh, okay, good. Okay, next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Can I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion if there are no questions about it, to approve it.
I'll second the motion.
I just want to ask one,
Certainly. Absolutely.
just a clarification on the, to make sure I'm reading it right. Under the, with the sheriff's office, with the uplift or whatever their terminology for their equipment. So they reduced money in some of the budgets to cover the additional money. So it's a wash.
All righty. Any further questions? I'd remind the board that we can always move any item that's on the consent agenda to discussion if any board member wants to do that. But if that's not the case, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? Okay, all consent agenda passes. Okay, the next item is on our agenda is the discussion agenda. The first item on that is the animal control ordinance revision request. And I want to start by making a few comments and suggestions for the board to think about as they comment on this topic tonight. Kind of give an overview or summary of where I think we're at with it. First of all, we've been through several meetings and gathering information from all viewpoints about the changes that are contained in our animal control ordinance that are before us for approval. We will continue to do that. I'm suggesting that we have this on discussion agenda for our next daytime meeting so that we can get any additional information from people who may not have been able to attend the night meetings. I think all of these have been in night meetings up to this point. And then I would suggest that we, at our first meeting in May, that we finalize this and vote on it. We have a marked up ordinance which is available to the public if you don't have it already, that has all the changes highlighted in yellow. And I would suggest to the board that we go through that ordinance at the first meeting in May and vote on that page by page. Have a motion and a second and a vote on each page of that ordinance with all of the areas that are changing, either to modify those, to eliminate them, or add to them. So the board members will come prepared at that meeting, to vote on each page with any changes or recommendations they'd like to make to the board. And then that will be finalized. This issue will be finalized at that meeting. Yeah, May 8th. I think that's the date of the second Monday in May. Second thing I would, the next item I'd like to mention is that it was mentioned that I think we had a public speaker at our last daytime meeting that's talking about the dangerous dog process. And he was talking about who the appeal authority is for that. And he gave us a statute that says you have to have an appeal authority. So we need to, as part of this process, we need to establish who the appeal authority will be for dangerous dogs. It doesn't make any sense to have the Animal Advisory Board do it, because one of the members of that board is who the thing is being appealed from. So that'd be the Animal Control Director. So we need an independent, separate appeal authority, and I would recommend that we go to the Health Board to ask that the Health Board be our appeal authority for dangerous dogs, so that we comply with the statute on that. And it is, I think it could interpret dangerous dogs to be a public health issue. So if they're willing to do that, I think it would be appropriate. And I believe they were the appeal authority at some earlier time when I was here serving as county manager. I don't remember exactly which year, but I think that was the process at that time. One of the questions that's come up in this discussion, some of it based on some comments from our animal control director from Lori last time, was about the legal system and how they support or don't support issues associated with cruelty for animals. So one of the things I'm going to do between now and the time we decide this, and other commissioners are certainly welcome to do the same, is I want to meet with one or more of our judges and see if I can get a feel for where they're coming from, not on any specific case, but kind of across the board on how they view the animal cruelty situation. And based on the information that I get from meeting or talking with a judge or one or more judges, I would like to have our county manager and our county attorney, I like to explore the idea of using the civil process along with the criminal process to see if we approach this from a civil perspective, if it might make more sense, or we might be more effective. And so that's just an area that I like to research and see if we need to change anything in our ordinance related to that. And then the last thing I would just ask the board to think about is we were given a copy by the county manager of the tethering ordinance in Surrey County. My personal opinion from reading through it a couple times is it looks pretty good. So I would ask the board if they might want to consider using that as a baseline document, and then the board submitting whatever modification or changes they think are necessary or needed to adapt it to Stokes County. And my understanding is that that it's worked pretty well in Surrey County from some folks I've talked to. So those are 4 or 5 things I think kind of summarize where we're at. The other board members are welcome to agree, disagree, or give a better idea if you have one about how we approach this. But I would like to get it wrapped up by that meeting on the 8th of May, so that everybody doesn't have to keep coming talking about this every meeting. So with that, anybody want to talk first?
I'll go.
Okay, go ahead.
We do care. We do want this over with. And I will be a happy man when I do not see this on the agenda. And we want to do the right thing. And that's all I got.
Commissioner Cox, you have comments?
Yeah, I think there are some changes that definitely need to be made. What I would like to see us do, as well as in our discussion of the tethering, is during the budget is to look at maybe if we could even double the amount of money we've been giving Candace for the spay and neuter program, because I think the overpopulation program or problem is something that is really the crux of the whole issue, for one thing, and something we could maybe do more about. Now, I think that would help the problem, but I also don't know if there are enough veterinarians that participate, or how we could get more veterinarians to participate to be able to handle, even if we were able to give out more vouchers. But I think the overpopulation is something this board needs to really try to come up with more ways to address, in addition to looking at tethering. And also, I was just in Indiana, I was talking to some pet owners that I ran into at the park, and they were talking about how the 4-H there has a program for dog owners, and for especially to get children involved in learning how to properly take care of their pets. And I don't know if our 4-H does that, or if the county extension office, but that might be something we could look at, talking to them as well, if they mind doing a program that would help teach people proper ways to take care of pets, and maybe just teach kids from a young age how to properly take care of them and train them. And also, I think it would be helpful, depending on which way we go with this tethering ordinance, and I kind of think that Rick is right about the Surrey County being more of a model to go towards. But that being said, it would probably be helpful if our officers had examples that they could show people of what is proper and what is fits in when we do get the ordinance fixed. What is something they could use, and how to obtain that, and how much it would cost, and that sort of thing. Because some people just don't know, what we're talking about with swivels and things like that. So that might be a good idea. That's all I can think of right now.
Commissioner Campbell?
I know that, whatever changes that we do to the ordinance, I would ask that we would build in an educational piece, and also there'd be a certain time before actual enforcement of any of the ordinances that would be approved would take effect. And along with that, I agree with Commissioner Morris on the looking very, very deep into the civil part of it, instead of just relying on the criminal statutes. I think sometimes it may be more conducive to the overall strategy of getting the owner to take the corrective action to where the dog is not being neglected, and take some of the load too off of our kennel. Because if it's a criminal charge, pretty much the dog stays in the kennel, and of course the defense attorney, he just continues and continues and continues and continues the case. So the dog continues to stay in the kennel, tied up. There's not a lot of space in there. So I just think that we have an opportunity, and I agree, we don't need to go on past May 8th. But what I do want to make sure is we get it right, and we don't. It needs to be well thought, and it needs to be discussed. So if people maybe have a better idea, or they point something out that we're missing, or makes it vague again, then we just need to know about it. We just want to make sure that the wording's right, and the intent is right.
Commissioner Mendenhall?
Yes, I just want to thank everybody for coming up tonight and expressing your opinions. I certainly hope that if anyone that's watching on live stream, if they have a strong opinion either way, if they could come to the next meeting. We have another meeting in April, and it'll be an afternoon meeting. So if somebody is working at night and hasn't been able to come and express their opinion, please feel free to come to our next meeting to express it. And as always in situations like this, you're going to have two sides that have opinions that differ in many ways. And just want to say, I did look over the Surrey County information sheet that you were talking about, and I think that has a lot of good ideas in it. I'm not saying that we have to copy that one, but we certainly have some things in there that we can go by to get us started with. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Mendenhall. Okay, so is the board good with trying to do this timeline of wrapping it up on May 8th? And on discussion agenda for the next meeting. Also, I would remind everybody that in our agenda, on the electronic agenda, that document I referred to that has the yellow markings for all the changes, it's there for everybody to look at and to access. I'd also anyone that wants any additional information included in the next two agendas, get with Amber, and she can give that to us to look at for putting in the agenda. You want this stuff in it, Ms. Edwards, that you gave us tonight in the agenda? Okay, yes, so.
Yeah, that'd be great, thank you.
Yeah, so add
Three
that.
letters of support for the revisions, one from a doctor, one from Miss Ellen Parrott, Mrs. Ellen Parrott, who's the head of the Stokes County Arts Council, and one from a man who was raised on a farm in Stokes County.
Okay, good. We'll put those documents in as well. You got a copy, right?
I'll make one.
Have mine.
Share.
Okay, does anybody have anything else on this issue for tonight? Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Animal Control Advisory Board discussion. I think Commissioner Cox mentioned this at the last meeting. We're actually going through all of our boards and looking at them to make sure that their bylaws are up to date, and that they're meeting, and that they're adding value to for whatever purpose they were put in place for. It was suggested that we look at the Animal Control Advisory Board, and we were provide a copy of their bylaws and a list of the folks that are currently on there in our agenda. And so we just need to look at all that and see if we need to make any changes or see what changes we need to make, and to keep all these boards empowered and also adding value for the purposes they were established for. So with that, Commissioner Cox, would you like to open the discussion on
Well,
this one?
yeah, I think when we recently were talking about the different boards that we were that were coming up for appointment, we look back, we're trying to find out when the last time this board was actually appointed, because it was, for a long time, it was not being utilized, and so it was reconvened, but it hadn't been officially appointed. So these positions just need to be opened up so that other people can apply, and then we can reappoint this board. And I don't know if the terms need to be staggered so that they don't all expire at the same time. But did you find where the last time this board was appointed? It was like
Several years ago. Yeah, 2020 or before.
Cindy, do you know?
And I know you don't want me to go through all of my notes I've got here. I'm trying to remember if it was 2000. I've got, like I said, I've got.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. It has been a while.
in this bylaws, it says that half the non-county employee appointments are a 1-year term and half of them are a 2-year term, so they will be, they would be staggered. So, yeah, I think like we looked back and it was 2016 or 18, I think, maybe when it was done the last time. So it's just time for it to be revised.
So bottom line is all we need to do at this point is just re-advertise for appointments, right, Amber? And you
Yeah.
can do that.
Yes, we can.
The bylaws, I read through the bylaws that were provided, and they look pretty good to me, but if anybody has any suggestions, we can also look at that. Any suggestions for the group? Their bylaws, but I think they're fairly straightforward as part of this process.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Commissioner Manhall.
I know Cindy said it's 2010, and I came on board in 2016. So it'll be 7 years. I'm in my 7th year. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I cannot remember. And Cindy, I know you've been on it, but I don't know when the last time we really have put a new person in since I've been on the board. Cindy, maybe you can help me out, but I came on in 2016, and I can't remember getting a new person since then. We could have, and I just don't remember it. Right.
And there was not anybody want to apply, it seemed like, for the positions. So, not many
Thank
wanted
you.
to commit to being on the board.
Mr. Chairman, I would say one thing. I counted the members. I count 6. Is that correct?
That's what's on the sheet that was given us, right? 6.
I would think we need an odd number, either 5 or 7, because 6, if you had something to come up, you could get a 3-3 tie.
Yeah.
And I think you need an odd number. 7 to me would be better.
The bylaws say 9.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay, 9's fine. Odd number.
Yeah, where do you apply?
By the county manager. It'll be advertised. It'll be our normal process for serving on any board. You just put in an application, and Amber can give you all the information on how to do that. And I'm glad you said that, because it is 9. I thought I remembered reading that in the bylaws, but I wasn't sure if I did it, if it was something else. But, yeah, they just have 6. So that's one thing we need to do, is get it filled out. It needs to have a full board.
Another lady that's, I mean, they're 2, so
Okay.
that make it 7 if she is elected to be on the board.
Okay, well, the way the process will work is we'll open it to as many people that wants to apply, and then we'll in the end we'll end up voting on 9 people to serve on there. So as soon as we get through the process.
I think that at least one person ought to be retained for the sake of history and for the sake of knowing how the meetings are run, what has gone under the bridge, just having that historic consciousness.
Yeah, we have a process that takes care of all that with the appointing of the board. So Amber, you'll advertise that then.
Yeah, I'll put it on there tomorrow.
Okay, all righty. Does anybody have any other questions or comments on that, on this item?
Well,
Brett, go ahead.
they can still serve if they're on the board, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They can apply to be.
Right.
Apply to
Right.
come
We
back
just
on.
okay.
Yeah, everybody can apply to be reappointed, or new people can apply to be
We
appointed.
just keep our fingers crossed. We're covering the whole county.
Yeah, well, we can kind of sort that out as we look at who we approve or disapprove too, if we want to get them spread around. I think in their bylaws, it also says something about from different geographic locations, doesn't it, Amber, in the county. So we'll take that into consideration when we decide who we're going to approve.
So you're gonna call 9 people that's already there? You gonna do all 9 of them?
Yep, we're going to do 9.
Okay.
Exactly. All right, any other comments, questions on that item? Okay. Next item on our agenda is hazardous material response, and I think Director Brandon Gentry's going to be here to talk about that, or is here.
Good evening, everyone. Jeff Sonia had 2 meetings back. Some questions about with all the train derailment stuff in Ohio and all that. That has been a hot topic across the emergency management field in North Carolina. Everybody doing the listserv asking, does anybody have response plans for train derailments? All the counties around us has put it out there. Technically, everyone I spoke to, nobody has a specific for train derailment. Basically, it comes down to our normal hazardous response. We're going to do on any type of incident. Tractor and trailer, fixed facilities where they have a spill, we're called out. So initially, the fire department that responds to that is going to be the incident command. We're going to they'll notify emergency management, and I will request the regional response team, hazmat team. They're out of Greensboro. That's our closest one, and West Salem Fire Department has a hazmat team. We've called them up here before as well. Our fire marshal's office, they'll respond with our local hazmat trailer, and all the first responders are trained to hazmat operations level in the county. And by going by that, we're going to use the emergency response guidebook. Every patrol car, every fire truck, ambulance has it in there. You pull up, see a tractor and trailer on the side, it's got a placard. You look at it, you go right to the book, it tells you you need to evacuate, how to start treating a patient, how far you need to get people away, if it's any dangers. We got applications on our phone, we do it by phone. Have a train, ask rail's the name of it. You put in the number on the rail car, it tells you exactly what's on it. I did know, reach out to both railroad companies that come through Stokes County and ask for any information they would provide on materials they carry, and they said they don't give that information out. So I did reach out to both of them, and I emailed
Of course they do.
people higher up, and no response on the email. But we do have, train coming through King and Wanaco. A lot of it goes to Duke Energy, bringing coal, stuff like that. And evacuations, if we had to do them, we're going to do our reverse 911 in that general area by our communication center, the code red messages. Also, we have another software now we're just starting to use. It's called SAR Topo. We can put it on a map, put a 300-meter circle, half mile, whatever we need to put. And it'll populate all the residents, and we can put live tracking on a deputy's phone. It actually showed somebody went to that house to notify them. I know West Salem Fire Department, the Weaver fertilizer fire, they use that on every fire apparatus. And their map, it looked like spaghetti noodles where it tracked every cell phone they had activated on it. And it's real simple. You just click a button, sends it to your cell phone. As soon as you open it up, it starts live tracking you. But we have started using that feature here in the county for searches, stuff like that, to keep up with people. But really, tractor trailers going through the county, Highway 52, I know that stuff in Ohio, somebody was saying the trains were labeled wrong. If that happens here, we may treat it totally different because we're going off that placard. And, we got the emergency contact, our communication center does. Anytime something happens to a train, they call them right away. And we should get a manifest of what's being transported on the train. I know there's some stuff in legislation supposedly going down nationwide, but they're going to start providing, reporting what the transport, just like any transportation company on the road has to. Some of the other things you could have one of our local UPS, FedEx, they could be carrying something that's not placard, they don't have to label. That could be on that vehicle too that can cause a hazard that we don't know about till we get there. So there's a lot of talk about the train derailments. Stokes County's prepared. The fire department's gonna get there, identify what hazard we got, try to, Doc can put a dam up to stop anything going in waterways if we can, if it's safe to get around it. The EMS will be there to do a medical standby for the fire department if there's any injuries. And the evacuation will be our biggest task, because it'll be all hands on deck to try to pull off a large evacuation. And if it is a railroad derailment, just getting to the location may be a task here in Stokes County, because it goes through the rural part of the county. So that's really our hazmat, just a sum of all the hazmat we could run across. If anybody has any questions?
All righty, Sonny, you got a question?
As far as evacuations go, do we have like a reciprocal agreement with like Forsyth and Surrey if we had to move people completely out of the county? If it was that wide of a range of area?
County to county mutual aid agreement. Depending on where it happened, we could set up shelters in our county to move these people to relocate. If they don't have somewhere to go, and it's gonna be like the Weaver fertilizer, turned into several days. But yeah, we could reach out, and the state right now is working on a new shelter plan. It's kind of taking the hurricane evacuation stuff and the shelters. They're trying to make it statewide, where we kind of get together with Forsyth, our surrounding counties. If we open a shelter for a tornado, flooding event, they're gonna send people to help us. If they have something, we're gonna send people to help us. So much for one, especially your rural counties, to to get the people to staff them to do a shelter. So it's kind of gonna be a multi-county thing what they're moving toward to help everyone in shelter.
I just appreciate you looking into it and coming and talking to us about it, because I just think the public just needs to know we're trying to stay on top of things like this and what our response would be if, something like that happened. And, just hopefully nothing like that will happen, but maybe I'm just paying more attention to train derailments now, but it seems like there's a few every week somewhere. There was another one, I think, carrying hazardous material just a couple weeks ago. So.
Mr. Wood, you have any questions?
I just got a curiosity question. 2 o'clock in the morning, most people's got their cell phones off. Can y'all cut them on?
We cut them on.
Yeah. Is there technology to send a warning on it? Okay. So we're dead.
Not I'm aware of. I know you can talk about something about building your cell phone next time you get on the internet, but I don't think we better.
Do fire departments have like horns like they have in like places that have more tornadoes and stuff? They have like the siren.
Some of the fire departments still have the siren that goes off when they get calls, but it's very few now.
Might not be a bad idea.
And there's companies that call all the time on the cell warning sirens to put in the county.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty costly.
I bet.
Mr. Chandler, you have any comments, questions?
Yeah, a couple quick things. So, in events like that, and as you enact mutual aid, you're going to get a lot of different agencies that will be coming into Stokes County. So I know after 9/11, one of the major things that the Homeland Security recommended, and it does cause chaos with this. You all do plain talk. So everybody, because when people come in and you're trying to patch through radios or going to Viper and talking, if one person's 1033, which is an emergency, maybe a bathroom break, for another agency. So do we do that here in Stokes County?
Yeah, we've been switched plain English several years. Some people still use 10 codes, some don't. It's kind of, you're mixed. Everybody still uses 10-4 or something like that.
Yeah, that's pretty much universal. It's the
all the other stuff.
10 code stuff where you're trying, I need something,
Right.
or it's a type of a call. That's what needs to be plain talk.
Right.
And it shouldn't be some people do and some people don't.
Right.
That should be trained and enforced, because when the stuff starts going down, it's very chaotic, as you know.
Yeah.
The next thing is a lot of times, people overlook the attention that's going to come to the scene. I don't care how bad, maybe the scene is, or maybe if it's possibly a hazmat situation, or if it definitely is a hazmat situation, depending what the chemical spill is I would hope in your plan you've built in, where it needs to be a media point. And I know that, from what I've seen in the past here, it just seems like there's not really a point person that gives out media releases.
Right.
And so I think you need to look at that. If it's a real big event, you need to have a media area, and you need to have somebody. You can't have somebody that's in the incident command calling the shots, and then you call timeout and go talk to the media all the time.
Right.
So, and it's an
And that
ongoing
happens here
thing.
'cause
Yeah, so it's an ongoing thing. So, please, maybe look at incorporating that in some of your, not just in this plan, but in your emergency operation plan, where it's a tornado, it's a hurricane, or even active shooter. I mean, we can go, kind of
If
on
it
and on.
does get something that big, like the Moore County incident, where they shut the
Mhm.
substations,
Right.
they, were kind of rural, had the same thing. They called the state, got their public information officer to come assist with that because they was overwhelmed. Something like that. We have a public information officer, this is the fire marshal. That's who's designated for all of our stuff's been like that for years. And that's who, but on a hazmat situation, he's gonna probably be
Yeah.
knee deep in that.
Yeah, see, I think you need to look at, that's kind of like, he's going to be a main player probably in the incident command
Right.
too,
And it falls
because
back, I think
to be
there's
a resource
operations
group,
that goes to Amber, to be our next person it falls to.
Whatever it is, whoever it is, we need to incorporate it, write it down, and we need to train
Right.
on it, because I think that, especially, how things are when things go bad, if it's a bad response or something, people are going to start, when they start doing the briefing, the debriefing to what went right and what went wrong. I mean, people, things can unravel real quick. If someone is not pushing out the right information, or pushing out the wrong, too much information. So the person needs to be trained, and when I mean trained, it's not, at the elementary school or the high school. It needs to be education, through the state. They got courses for that.
Right.
And then it needs to be continually trained. And then even, with some events that may not rise to the level, because I mean, most fire departments, any kind of a scene, they automatically go incident command. I don't care if it's, a small spill. That's just typically how fire departments are. But I think that, whoever you have do it needs to get some actual experience too. So when the big show comes, that, he or she is effective. Last thing. So equipment wise, so you feel comfortable that our fire departments and our deputies that arrive on the scene, that they're properly equipped if it's a real hazmat scene and the wind is shifting?
Our deputies, all they got to go by is the emergency response guide. Our fire departments, they all have SCBA, just respiratory. They have, the firefighter suit, which is only good for certain things. Then our hazmat trailer has Tyvek suits on it, totally. But now you gotta look at when it is, where it is. The trailer's located here at Danbury, so it's gonna be a little bit of a response. And some fire departments may have more trained people than others. Depends on if it's during the day, this at night. But if you're looking at waiting on Greensboro or Winston to be here, that's an hour. I mean,
At least.
yeah, at least.
Yeah.
So I think that the major thing, I mean, obviously we don't want any of our personnel, to get hurt or, to get maybe some kind of radiation that's gonna, but what'll happen if that happens, it's gonna take so much away from the response, because now we're dealing with one of our own,
Right.
instead of containing the scene and getting the right people there.
And that's gonna be, they gotta identify it is truly a hazard. Get back, evacuate the area themselves. And, cause you you gotta have a hazmat technician, at least somebody operational level going with them. You gotta have 2 in, 2 out for OSHA. So, how many hazmat technicians do we have in the volunteer fire departments? And, you know, I don't know the answer to that.
I don't either.
Um,
We need to find out.
I can reach out to Scott and see how many people certified at each department. As far as, all of them should have hazmat operations. The technician's the next up, then they have a HazWalker, certification course.
But you don't need should. It's either they have it
Right,
or they don't.
right. I can't enforce what the fire departments have to have, I don't.
Well, then that's a group that we need to get together with, but you and Scott, need to lead that charge. I mean, we're all Stokes County. And I understand, it's a little bit of a different thing, but just because it's different, don't mean that we don't do it.
Right.
That's all I got.
Mr. Mendenhall?
Well, I was fortunate enough after this was brought up to catch up with Brandon and King for about an hour. And we talked about this for about an hour. So about everything y'all asked, he and I discussed, just so happened I was in King, he was in King. We pulled over, we had all talked about this, so I don't have any further questions.
All right. I don't think I do either. I was kind of curious about the media piece of it, because if it's, depending on the scope of it, it could be national media as well as local media. So just think that process through to make sure that they really play a big role, I guess, in this, getting the communications out, probably more than anybody else.
I mean, really, if you don't give the media something, they're gonna make it up for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They will.
All right, thanks,
I think we
Brandon.
need to send Scott and,
Scott's had the PO training.
yeah, and Amber
There's
to
a class coming up here.
class.
I'm pretty sure it's not that far away.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, I think it might be helpful to have a trailer with all that equipment in King and Walnut Cove and Danbury, and like maybe at least 3 if you could equip. Maybe not have everything, like a ton of everything, but
And
just as,
some of the fire departments have trailers set up.
yeah,
just
that's
for
what I was
buses.
wondering.
Yes,
Good deal.
they gotta go staggered through the county.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you for that information.
Anything else, board? Okay, our next item, Brandon's also here for that one. It's the update emergency operations plan that the board has to approve, I think, every so many years or.
Yeah, well, this is a brand, this is actually a new one, where we had a grant that was redone, I'm sorry, redone. Last time it was completed was in 2004, several years ago. The other book's about that thick. It's got a lot of stuff you'd have to change every time a department head leaves. You gotta change, so they really simplified it, get it down to the emergency services function, ESF, each section in there. So it's been done, it's completed. I just need your guys, for all of you to look at it and approve it. And
By
see-
when?
Anytime. It don't have to be done right away. It's a lot to read and go through. I went through it several times. I believe we fixed everything in it. Met with the company that done it. But we have it in a electronic version now, a Word and PDF, so we can go in and make changes, anything we need to do to it. Every department will get one in their department. I talked to Tori, he's gonna put them in binders for us, and they'll be in color, so that'll be, I know it's a lot to look over. And there's other plans that'll be actually in the main one, like the DSS's sheltering plan, stuff like that. We're gonna add to this, but don't have to actually be an emergency operation plan. But it'll be in the main copy for the mass carriage sheltering.
Okay, so how long does the board want to take to review it before we vote on it? Do you want to do it next meeting or meeting after that
When are
one?
we getting it?
You already put it out.
had
It's
You
already
already
out
put it out. I've already read
electronically,
it.
I
That was
think.
the email.
Oh, in electronic. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be like in a
It was
binder.
163 pages.
All right.
My only
Email?
question Yeah, I just didn't see it. I didn't see it that jumped out at me. I mean, it's a good plan. It's well thought out. It's current, which I like that.
Oh, it's
But what is do we have already pre-authorized contract for recovery? So in other words, hurricane comes through and, you know, we're done with the search and rescue part. Now we're in the recovery phase. Do we have predetermined contracts? In other words, do we have a contract that's already valid that you can pick the phone up and say, hey, I need such and such construction company down here with bulldozers to start moving stuff out of the street or to lift, you know, or even the simple of cutting trees, you know.
Debris management part. No,
What?
Like debris management?
Yeah.
No, we don't have a contract, just our county. We can use North Carolina Emergency Management. They have a contractor for the whole state that we can use, or we can elect to get our own. And they come in and they'll, you know, we put out a request for quote, and we can get with all them vendors, but a lot of the rural counties just use the state's vendor they already approved, and that's who we use, and it'll be, we'll call them, we'll keep up with everything. Especially if it's declared a, you know, disaster, we can get reimbursement from the federal or the state side. But, you know, you gotta meet the threshold to get federal assistance.
Right.
You know, but no, the state has somebody on contract we can use, or we can get our own. There's numerous agencies that you can get, and, you know, they're gonna give you a set price for, you know, for average incident, how much it's gonna cost per hour, per piece of equipment, stuff like that.
Well, but the state probably already has that, right? I mean, if they have the database or whatever, I'm assuming then that they have a contract. I guess the point is yeah, we're a rural county and maybe we do need to do that. But on the other hand, what you got to worry about is, you know, if this hits a big, say it hits Stokes, and let's say it hits Forsyth. So, you know, Forsyth probably has their own contracts that they just bring in. There's only so many people that do so many things. So if you're waiting on the state, then, you know, we're second class.
We don't have no contractors on paper. I mean, we do have people we reach out to help start clearing roads. I mean, the last tornado event we had, DOT come out, they said they'd start working on it tomorrow. This other contractor come in that lives in the county, they went ahead and cleared the road that night. So you're gonna have a lot of people that's wanting to help, but do we have anybody on contract? No, not official to do that.
Do me a favor and just kind of check and just kind of see what options maybe we have. You may be right, and nobody in Stokes County we can't get someone to do an actual bid. I just know from experience it's very nice to already have contracts, and all you do is pick the phone up and they're here, and that helps if the feds declare it a disaster. I mean, typically they already meet the standards on an audit that the feds are gonna do. And the worst thing that you don't want to do is hire somebody thinking you're going to get reimbursed, and then the audit comes up short. Guess who pays? We do.
Yeah.
So that'd just be something else.
Yeah, I can reach out to 2 or 3 of them companies.
Okay.
And, you know, see if they'll give an estimate or,
Yeah.
you know, how it works.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Might be similar to, you know, the way businesses contracting people to remove snow.
Right. Yeah. But it's
Like
just
that
a little
thing.
bit more in depth with some stuff. Yeah. Same concept.
Anybody have any other questions or comments for Brandon?
Thank you very much. And
Thank
How long did you say till you want to look at this?
a month or 2 weeks?
2 weeks, probably plenty.
Okay. Well, let's put it on the action agenda then for 2 weeks from now.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that good with everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Brandon.
Next item is our proposed maintenance of effort budget request. Or Amber, you want to talk about that, or?
Yeah, I can just introduce it.
Okay.
Stacy
Go ahead,
wasn't able to
introduce
be with us tonight, but she put forward the proposed maintenance of effort budget using the funds that we get from the state for services that are essential as far as like substance use disorders and mental health, disability, stuff like that. And this is for fiscal year 23-24. It's relatively the same as last year's for fiscal year 22-23. And there's some changes in the amounts of funding and like what the funding's being used for as far as the causes, but it's relatively the same as far as people they're giving the money to, different organizations.
Yeah, I think Stacy's been doing this for several years now, I think, and this is money that we have to, that we're required to spend, I think comes from the state, that we're required to spend on mental health type activities and things that are in here.
Yeah.
You know, I think she's always done a pretty thorough job of dispersing these funds to get maximum bang for the buck. So, and that she's got some pretty good justifications in here for a lot of what the recommendations are. So, I guess I'd open to the board for comments. Sonia, you want to comment first?
Yeah, I think after serving on JCPC for a while and DSS board, I'm pretty familiar with most of this, and it's pretty standard, and most of it, you know, are really going for good causes. Like prevention is one thing. It goes towards mental health, you know, kids at risk for sure. Transportation for people who want to go get mental health services or substance abuse counseling. So it's all good, you know, good things to spend this money on for sure. I don't have any problem or any questions with it. We can have it on action next time, I think, right?
Okay. Keith, you have any comments?
No,
questions?
it's very detailed. Good.
You have comments, questions, Brian? Commissioner Mendenhall, you good? One thing I would like to do is, one thought I had, I don't necessarily want to do it, but I was looking at the various things on here, and I don't know that if we had some money that, say, we gave to an organization and they didn't spend it, I think Stacy comes back and recommends that we shift it to something else. If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, I think that's happened before, hasn't it? One area I'd particularly like to shift some to, if we get a chance, if somebody doesn't use theirs, is the Stokes partnership. But we could talk about that, and you guys may have other places you'd like to shift it to. So if that happens, we need to track it and make sure everybody spends it, and if they don't, that we move it so that it does get spent.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we get the maximum benefit. So everybody's good action for the next meeting on that one?
Yes.
Okay, the next one is the Hospital Operations Committee appointment request. And the BO, this board acting as the Board of Trustees has already made these appointments, I think. But since this board is a signatory to the lease, we also need to approve the folks here. Get it open. Oops, I opened the same thing again. Sorry. So we have these 5 folks here that need to be nominated. So I'll open the floor for nominations for the Commissioner Board to approve the individuals listed in our document here for the Hospital Operations Committee. That'd be Greg Collins, Jason Duncan, Olivia Shelton, Kim Walker, and Dwayne Young.
I make a motion to close nominations.
Second.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. So I guess we need a poll now, right? Or do we need?
Just move it to action.
Just move to action for next time, okay? And so
Yeah, and hold it at the next meeting.
and then we'll poll then, okay. All righty, any questions on that? Next item is implementation of the performance evaluation system. I think Gail's here to talk about that.
When I looked on the agenda, there was a few things that was, like highlighted, and I went out there and made some changes. And I can get those out. From what I'm gathering, let's see, we had to add some things. So let me just get this out.
Commissioner Mendenhall had some questions, some legal questions, I think, that he's got resolved with this at the
I
last
did,
meeting. Is
yes.
that right?
I contacted our attorney and he and I worked together, and then I think he contacted Amber, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
There's probably not anything in.
Well, you've made some of those changes, correct? On the updated form.
Is that what's, on our agenda update? It says,
There's one that's marked on,
marked.
yeah. And that's the one that has the changes. It's not the final one, because we didn't,
okay,
yeah. Just wanted you to see what changes were being made.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think there was a section in there that we need to put the goals for professional development and the performance, improvement plan. We add those two sections.
Okay.
And some wording, those were corrected also.
So is everything else then what we were presented before other than those changes? Okay.
Everybody's good with these changes. You wanna move it to action?
I think we probably, since we've discussed it, we probably should go ahead, yeah.
I'm with that.
Okay, so, everybody good with the changes? You good with them? Okay, so let's move it, we'll move that to action then, Gail. Get it underway. The next item on our agenda is our budget meeting schedule. Amber, you want to talk about that one,
Yeah.
right?
So before you, just the proposed budget schedule for this fiscal year 23-24. It's just like your typical schedule with delivery of the budget being on Monday, May 22nd, 2023. That's the proposed budget from me. And then you see your budget work sessions, and these are the same, I guess, corresponding dates as they were last year, and those times and dates as far as on what day of the week and what time worked last year. So I just changed the dates and transfer the times over the same for this one. And if they don't work, we can change them. But they worked last year, so hopefully they'll work this year. And then the public hearing is on Monday, June 5th, 2023 at 7 p.m. And the joint meeting with the Board of Education is Tuesday, June 13th at 2 p.m. As far as I know, that should work. I've reached out to Dr. Rice, and he said that he would inform the Board of Education to make sure that it works for them.
Okay, you want to start, anybody want to start with whether the dates are good or not? Are they good for you?
Dates are good for me.
Are they good for you?
It's, May 22nd, is that board meeting, a 2 o'clock meeting or 6 o'clock?
2 o'clock meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then let me move forward here. Okay, I might be back by the 8th. There's drug summit that the County Commissioner Association is putting on in Durham, I think, on the 7th and 8th that I'm gonna try to go to, but I may be back by the 8th that night. If not, I can call in.
Those usually end at 3 o'clock or so, don't they?
Yeah.
Drug summit thing. Give you a full day's work.
That'll be another full day.
Traffic on it, that's a 5-hour drive.
Don't tell me that.
You better be out by 3.
Are you good with the dates, Keith?
I'm good with them, yes.
I have one I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have a conflict on the Thursday, the June 15th date. If we could look at a different time for that one. I'm good with everything else. And I had a suggestion, if this makes sense or not, you guys tell me if it does. But since we're gonna be here on Monday, June 5th for the public hearing at 7, in order to consolidate 2 meetings and keep people from having to come twice, I thought it might be a good idea to have a budget meeting before the public hearing. That way, a couple hours and maybe
And
adjourn.
then not have the 8th one.
The 15th.
The 15th one is the
He's
one.
got a conflict on it.
Oh,
Conflict on the 15th.
but you wanna have
I'm just suggesting if
5th and the 8th.
the folks that have to travel would like to, like you, Sonia,
Yeah.
would rather kill 2 birds with 1 stone on that.
I'm fine with the 2 on Monday, but I don't wanna come back on Thursday. That week, same week.
Yeah, well, maybe it's not a good idea to have them that close together then.
That's what I'm thinking.
Or
I'm
maybe
fine with
just-
having one on the 5th, but if we do, I don't think we need one on the 8th.
Okay.
We'll already be here on the 5th, so I don't have a problem with that. So maybe we should do the 5th. And then you may have a problem on the 15th.
I thought we were doing so good.
I could back up the 15th just to earlier in the week. I could do it that week. I just can't. Thursday and Friday, I think I'm gonna be tied up.
Okay. I could do Wednesday or Tuesday or Wednesday, I think.
Either one looks good to me as far as I know.
Tuesday or Wednesday,
Mm-hmm. As far as I know.
13th or 14th.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing the 1st, the 5th. What time do we want to start on the 5th? 5? We're doing the 7 o'clock hearing.
That'd probably be good.
That's fine. So we're getting rid of the 8th.
Yeah.
Getting rid of the 8th
And the 15th.
and doing
Do the 5th and then do the public hearing right after that.
okay.
And then I could do the 14th, 13th or the 14th that week, as long as it's not the 15th or 16th.
I can do either.
The 13th, you're meeting with the Board of Education.
Are we?
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
That's fine.
we are meeting with the Board of Education on 13th at 2.
How about the 14th then?
That's
That should
fine.
work.
Yeah,
We'll just keep the same time. If that's okay.
same time at 2 p.m.
Okay, so Amber, will you go down with all the revisions and make sure?
Yeah.
So I'll make sure I'll.
Yeah.
This down.
So June 1 at 2 p.m.
Okay.
Then Monday, June 5th at 5 p.m. And that's right before the public hearing, which is at 7 p.m. that same Monday. Then Tuesday, June 13th at 2 is the joint meeting with the Board of Education. Then Wednesday, June 14th at 2 p.m. is a budget work session. And then Tuesday, June 20th at 2 p.m. is a budget work session.
June the 20th at 2.
Yes, sir.
So basically, all of our meetings are at 2 o'clock other than June the 5th at 5. Is that correct?
Yes. And I think one of those. I think last year, I think one of those was another night meeting, but I think we changed it due to a schedule conflict. So if we wanted to change another one of those to a night meeting, we could.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt to do that. Make that one on the day after the school board meeting. Make it at 6 instead of 2.
The June 14th.
Yeah,
Okay.
6 o'clock.
June 14th at 6 p.m.
not a good idea. So for people that can't come during the day.
Good changing.
I don't have any more changes.
Okay.
Everybody else good with those dates?
So June the 1st at 2,
Mhm.
June the 5th at 5, June the 13th at 2. That's with the board.
Right.
June the 14th at 6,
Yes.
June the 20th at 2.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And if we're not finished at that June 20th meeting, we'll recess it and back, but hopefully we'll be finished by then.
Go there.
Just send me your email.
Yeah, I will.
This ain't the easiest budget we've ever had, so that's why I make that comment.
Yeah. And also send us something about the League of County Governments.
Yes, I will. And all I should need is a consensus on that. I can, and then I'll advertise it once we make those changes.
We have consensus for those dates with the modifications that we just made. Okay. Maybe email it out to us tomorrow, Amber, with a revised version so we can get it all on our calendar.
Okay.
Okay, the last item next to the last, we got an action. The last item in our discussion agenda is any budget guidance anybody would like to offer. Anybody have anything on that one? That's that standing agenda item that we have. Okay, our next, we'll go to the action agenda at this time. The first thing on the action agenda is Surrey County Housing Consortium appointment request. Last meeting, both Melissa Nance and Commissioner Keith Wood were nominated to serve on the Surrey County Housing Consortium. Has that been advertised now for a couple of weeks?
It has.
Okay, so
And we didn't receive any new applications.
We're just polling the board.
I'll open the floor for any further nominations, just in case anybody has any. Does anybody have them?
Motion to close nominations.
Okay. Second. Somebody?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, so now we need to poll the board. Start with Commissioner Mendenhall.
Nance and Wood.
Nance and Wood. Nance Wood.
Nancy Wood.
I'm just gonna do Nance. I ain't voting for myself.
Okay. Well, you're on it. Okay, we had, what was the other action item we added on?
The performance.
Performance evaluation system, yeah, just did that, didn't we? Get a motion to approve
Motion to
the
approve.
performance evaluation system with changes.
Yeah, I second it.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes. Now we have a closed session, and Amber, would you read the justification for closed session?
Yeah. To consider the initial employment or appointment of an individual to any office or position other than a vacancy in the Board of County Commissioners or any other public body, or to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, and fitness of any public officer or employee other than a member of the Board of Commissioners or of some other public body pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A6. There's a motion to go into.
A motion to go in closed session. Second, anybody?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we're in closed session.
wanna be responsible for them cameras.
Okay, if the board doesn't have any further business, we can get a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor